I wonder what your immediate response would be if I was to ask you this simple question. Are you happy? It seems such a simple question, but most people's default answer is some version of, well, I'm not unhappy. But there is a distinct difference between being happy and not being unhappy, and you don't have to live stuck in that washing machine of average. The problem lies less with your circumstances, your conditioning, or your levels of comfort, and more in the fact that most people are not even able to articulate what happiness or even success looks like for them, preferring to mix some version of the things they don't want in life and the things that they've been conditioned to want, usually in some sort of generic terms around family, finances, happiness, and success. Yep, I've even had someone answer that question of what does happiness look like to you with, I just want to be happy. There's a very clear lesson here. If you can't describe it, you can't achieve it. Perhaps better put by one of the greatest minds of humankind, Albert Einstein, when he said, you do not really understand anything unless you can explain it to your grandmother. See, the problem is many of us don't want to describe it because we are not in love with our current lives, often living versions of willful dissatisfaction, preferring to feel like life is not that bad as opposed to not what I want it to be. There's a concept around 20 years old that describes this perfectly. That concept, perhaps numbingly dull on purpose, is a place called Region Beta, and many people live there. Most people live their lives between a 4 and a 6 out of 10, never leading a life bad enough that you're forced to change, but never good enough that you ever find true happiness. This is the classic definition of Region Beta. It is true that there's a risk to chasing down a 7, 8, 9, or even a 10 out of 10 life. But I would argue that capping yourself at a 6 means your life is destined to move only one way. Pretty soon a 6 becomes a 5, which becomes a 4, and that trajectory is not a place I choose to live. Again, most people don't stay stuck for lack of opportunity. They stay languishing in Region Beta because their lack of commitment to creating a clear, a conscious, and a compelling vision of what happiness and success looks like. Most people don't fail because they don't chase their dreams. They fail because they won't even lock those dreams in, fearing they will either get it wrong or they'll be judged for going against the mob, or perhaps herd is more appropriate given the collective noun for sheep. Most people are scared to even consider what success and happiness might look like, because in order to achieve it, there must be some level of discomfort, and most will continue to choose a permanent malaise over short-term discomfort, even if the payoff is a life of pure bliss. The crazy thing about Region Beta is that it suggests that if your life was a 1, a 2, or perhaps even a 3 out of 10, you would be almost compelled to make a change, even if you didn't know what that change looks like. And if you think about it, it's probably true. How many jobs have you stayed in that were not that bad and became more and more miserable with your life? But if you have ever found yourself in a terrible job, lacking support, leadership, value, and a job that was perhaps predatory, abusive, or demeaning in nature, how long would it take you to walk out the door, even if you didn't know what you would do next? I don't even want to ask the same question of the relationships in your life. In these circumstances, where your circumstances fall below Region Beta, we would prefer to jump and learn to fly on the way down. In a way, despair is better for your future than Region Beta, and a life on autopilot, but I hesitate to ask, on autopilot heading towards what? Thomas Merton is quoted as saying that people may spend their whole lives climbing the ladder of success, only to find, once they reach the top, that the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. Have a think about the major things that you have in your life, or the major things that you are chasing in your life. Your career, your relationships, your finances, your studies, your behaviors. How many of them have been a clear and conscious choice of yours? A clear and conscious choice of yours towards a compelling vision. And how many have you just fallen into or continued just because, well, you don't really know why, or maybe even that's what you've always done. You see, in the absence of a conscious identity, we all become a victim of circumstance, a victim of conditioning, and a victim of comfort. And this is keeping many of us in region beta, that place of willful dissatisfaction, on autopilot, or the treadmill of life, simply in a hurry to go nowhere. Happiness is self-determined, but far too many give over the power of that definition to others, their parents, partners, friends, society, social media. Most people who choose other people's versions of success wind up unfulfilled at best, miserable, depressed, anxious, addicted, and angry at worst. And that's just no way to live. And certainly doesn't sound like success to me. But there is an answer, and you own the answer. Most people try to build success, happiness, and fulfillment on a foundation of sticks and straw, never spending the time or consideration to develop their own clear, conscious, and compelling vision of their future, who they are deep down as a person, what their values are, and what exactly and specifically they want for and out of their lives. You have the opportunity to climb out of the valley of region beta. You don't have to live there. And you also don't have to give up everything from your now life in order to achieve your happiness and your success. But you may need a few honest conversations with yourself about what purpose they serve. If you feel as though your life is on autopilot, perhaps a perpetual phase of malaise, or perhaps a never-ending cycle of chasing that next success, or as Thomas Merton would put it, climbing that ladder, you do have options. Take some time, research, listen, learn, speak with experts and people you trust, admire, and respect, and then search inside. All the answers are in there if you are prepared to be a little uncomfortable, do the exploration, and are prepared to buck the trend of the millions who have chosen their own level of dissatisfaction. It may feel like the decisions are hard to come by or that you don't have the answers, but look again. That feeling of discomfort comes less from your lack of knowledge and more from an internal thermometer holding you back. That fear of getting it wrong, fear of judgment, and heaven forbid, fear of success. What if you get this right? The fear of getting it right lies deep in your subconscious. The problem, if you get this process right, if you actually determine what success looks like for you, and you give yourself an opportunity to chase it, that comes with two levels of negative thought. The first, a feeling of, dare I say, shame for living however many years of your life on autopilot, racing to rock bottom, or worse, region beta. A sense that those years were wasted, so I prefer not to remind myself of that by challenging the processes that landed me squarely where I am in life right now. And secondly, now you have to do something, and that thing will be different to what you know, and change is always combined with discomfort. To overcome these, don't stop at the fear. Challenge the thoughts and continue the discussion. That is, where there is a worry that deciding what happiness looks like will result in a shame or feelings of waste for the elements of your past. I mean, how long have you lived in this state? Remind yourself of this fact. Every thought, decision, and action that you have taken in the past has led you to this point. But where you land next will be as a result of every thought, decision, and action that you take from this moment forward. Would you prefer that to be towards a life that you want to live, or to remain where you currently are? And that second fear. There is no doubt that change is hard, but staying the same is harder. You are just more used to it. Making changes in your life that move you closer to the person that you want to become and towards your own definition of success does come with an element of discomfort. But think about it. Why is chasing your dreams so hard? It's simply because they are worth it, and you already know what doing the same thing leads you to. At the end of the day, you are responsible for your own happiness, to describe it, to design it, and then to chase it down. So, let me ask you, are you happy?